What's up, everybody? What is going on? Come on, Twitter's not working or X. It's all good. Yo, I want to talk to you about mental health and dealing with emotional overwhelm. So, if you've ever struggled with feeling like you're emotionally overwhelmed, like it's a lot going on, and it don't always have to be things that are traumatic or depressing. It doesn't have to be like, you just got out of a bad relationship or something like that. What's up? What's up, my guy Ron? What's up, Jennifer? What's up, Leslie? It's good to see you. Man, Mama Bear, what's up? It's good to see you. Y'all drop in the chat where you're tuning in from. Drop in the chat where you're tuning in from. I'd love to know. Um, as you come in. And if you're watching the replay, hashtag replay. Okay. For those of you who don't know, I am a former elite athlete who attempted suicide multiple times after I didn't get my shot at the NFL or the NBA. And thankfully, I survived that in large part because I found faith in Christ and also because I learned self care practices. I did my first journal entry, saw my first counselor, did my first mindfulness exercise. And in that psychiatric care facility, I was introduced to self care practices that I've since developed and evolved and have been able to integrate into my high achiever lifestyle in order to have holistic high levels of success. Whereas prior to the crash and burn in the psychiatric unit, I was, externally successful, but inwardly failing. Okay. And by the way, I'm trying something new today, going live on my computer and my phone because I don't like when I use StreamYard and it makes me all like you can only see the horizontal view on the phone, and especially because Instagram just does a better job at pushing this live stream to live viewers. So holler at me, y'all. Here's the thing, man. There's a lot we can say about mental health, right? And I'll probably do more of this, especially because my book about it is coming out this month. But I wanted to like really break it down practically to how I handle my emotional overwhelm and what you can do if you're facing that as well. What I was saying is that it doesn't always have to be something traumatic or like you got in an argument or something heavy like that you're dealing with. It can be a season of growth, expansion. It can be lots of responsibility. In a lot of ways, I'm dealing with both right now in this current moment. I'm in a lot of growth, a lot of expansion. I don't know if you guys saw my Insta story. Went to the Clever Invested Summit in Miami, and it was arguably one of the best conferences I've ever been to in terms of value that I received. And that's a big statement. I've been to some, I've been to some conferences, man. And again, every conference has a unique niche. So I'm not saying that like I didn't receive tremendous value for what those conferences were because I have, but man, holy cow. Like I walked away from there. I was like, I don't know if I've ever been in a conference with that many high level people in one environment. I hear the closest thing to it that people speak to is Grant Cardone's conference. And then also Craig Groeschel's Global Leadership Summit, which I don't even think is his anymore. But I hear they draw similar audiences like that. And I'm sure there's a bunch that I don't know about. Which, by the way, if you know some good ones that I should go to, let me know. Because I love conferences. It's just a better way to network. It's a better way I like being around people, get to learn, networking breaks. I just like that energy. It's why I run a TEDx conference out of Atlanta. So anyways, I'm dealing with that, like so many relationships. I know I'm going to do a ton of business from that conference and et cetera, et cetera. And so it's not just that conference, I got stuff going on. I just, signed a contract with my largest client that'll represent 1.8 million employees. And so I'm like, okay, here we go. Like there's handling the emotions that come with expansion. A lot of people talk about growth and expansion and being a high achiever. They don't always talk about the emotional challenge that comes when you expand into higher levels of influence and success, the imposter syndrome that you may struggle with, the fear that you wrestle with in a new degree, the weight of responsibility, the anxiety of knowing that the opportunities that are coming are oftentimes have windows that you have to maximize them. And so went to first the Atlas conference, and then went to, I see Matt's on here. What's up, Matt? And then I went to the Clever Investor Summit. It's just like massive expansion, massive relationship, lots of follow up. Lots of people want to do life and business and connect and follow up, and that's good. That's why we go to these things. But it brings about a level of overwhelm. And I've got practices after each conference. I go directly into integration. I try not to like stack them back to back. This is probably the closest I've stacked conferences at that level. And that's just because of the dates that they decided to do them on. And so I do go into integration, which is important, right? It's important for you to have an action plan after you get exposed to new relationships, new people. They say the fortune is in the follow-up. So there's that level, y'all. We need to talk about that more. I wish more high achievers would talk about it. And here's what I know. Like everybody, if I said, yo, how many of you would say that mental health should be destigmatized? How many of you say that we should normalize that it's okay to struggle, that it's okay not to be okay? I'm sure everybody would say yes. In fact, you can go ahead and drop a 1 in the chat if you feel the same way. Like drop a 1 in the chat if you feel like mental health should be normalized. And what I mean by that is not that like we want people to struggle and enable struggle. Like, no, that's not the consciousness that we do. But it's just like, okay, cool. I see you. It's like, okay, cool. Like, it shouldn't be taboo. People shouldn't feel ashamed when they're struggling mentally and emotionally. Okay. Drop a 1 if you agree with that. Okay. Now here's the thing. Most everyone I know would agree that it should not be a stigma, right? Like it should be normalized. But yet if I were to put all of you that are on the stream in a room full of 1,000 people, we can call them high level leaders, and I were to say, hey, raise your hand if you've got things in your life right now that, if you were honest, would bring you a level of tears because of how emotionally challenging it is or how overwhelming it might be. Typically, what will happen is you see some people will be like this. Majority of people will be like, let me see who else is raising their hand so that I know if it's safe to raise mine. And that right there is part of the problem. It's that everyone is waiting for somebody else to go first. And so we're talking about mental health and dealing with emotional overwhelm. And I'm going to give you 3 tips of what I do and what I'm doing, not what I just done, but what I'm doing right now to deal with the massive quantum leap that is happening for me right now. Because not only does it bring about its own fears and worries and concerns, and again, there's excitement. That's what we focus on, right? But there's this level of processing. And sometimes, y'all, we can spiritually bypass emotions that are there for us. And I've learned not to do that because I embrace the full spectrum of emotion. I think sometimes we get these emotions of grief, of sadness, of frustration, of anger, of depression, of anxiety, and it's like we don't want to feel them. We want them to go away. We want them to we just want to get to feeling better. And sometimes we spiritually bypass it, like pray it through, affirmation it through, like go do a workout and shift it through, and we never actually process why the emotion spiked in the first place. And especially on emotions that are viewed as like lower frequency emotions per the map of consciousness from, what is it, power versus force. And so when you think about that, like what people do is they say, oh, well, grief or apathy or like these emotions, well, apathy is not a good one, but grief, for example, or anger, is like this lower register, this lower frequency emotion. And we don't feel that because we're high frequency people. And it's like, no, you're just bypassing. Like high frequency is not bypassing, because you can step into grief with an enlightened frequency. You can step into, I need to look at the chart, anger with an enlightened, think about Jesus when he flipped over the table of the money changers. He was enlightened being, but he was in the anger and in the emotion of anger. And so these emotions are not bad within themselves. And we got to be careful that we don't think like it's low vibe and then we're bypassing things that we should be processing. Somebody should write that down. You're bypassing things that you should be processing. So let me give you the 3 steps, okay? Because I'll get going on this and we won't stop. So I want you to write this down. Number one, here's a sentence, okay? Right now, I feel frustrated because. Right now, I feel frustrated because. And for anybody that's like super detailed and you want to type some notes in the chat, now's the time to do it. Step one, I should have put this in a little framework. My bad, y'all. But right now, because write down, right now, I feel frustrated because, and then fill in the blank, and you go into an exhaustive expression. Whatever you don't express, you suppress. Okay, it lives in your cellular memory. It's only a matter of time before you explode or implode. I don't care how good you get at spiritually bypassing. I can tell you that I did spiritually bypass, not necessarily spiritually. I just bypassed by working harder, by suppressing my emotions. I did that probably for 17, 18 years until I imploded. And this is why overnight, it seems as if people who are successful and high achievers can end their life because they had emotions that instead of expressing them, they suppressed them. And over time, it ate them alive to the point where they were so convoluted, so backed up, so repressed emotionally that, they chose to, take that route. And it doesn't always end like that. Sometimes it shows up with busyness, addiction, like there's sexuality, promiscuity, like it shows up differently for different people, but it's not healthy when we suppress emotions instead of express and process them. Okay. So right now I feel frustrated, or right now I feel hurt, or right now I feel overwhelmed because. Okay. And then just go into an exhaustive expression. Okay. That's step one. Number two, after you get through that, and let me give you a tip on that, because sometimes it's hard if you got a lot going on. Like, you might not be clear on exactly what emotion that you're feeling, right? Like I was thinking about this today. I was talking to my friends. I was like, man, I got so much going on. I'm like, I don't know if this is fear, anger, excitement, courage, worry. Like it's just all balled up in there. And so I don't know how I feel because I don't know which emotion is stronger than the other. They just all feel like if you ever pulled out a bunch of extension cords or cords out of a closet or a junk drawer, and it's like all weaved together. You don't even know where to start. A lot of times when you're dealing with emotional overwhelm, that's exactly what it feels like. And similarly to untangling physical cords, in order to untangle emotional cords, you've got to start with like one of them loose ends. Okay. And one of the tips and strategies that I've used to be able to do that is I don't know how to say the guy's name, but Robert Plutchik, however you say his last name, with the emotion wheel. So it's a wheel that has all these like emotions on it. And I would just look on that emotional chart and go, which one of these feels closest to what I'm feeling right now? Okay. So you're going to start with just, exhaustive expression. Right now, I feel frustrated because. Right now, I feel overwhelmed because. And then use Robert's chart, his emotion chart, to help you if you need some help expressing your emotions. Okay. And sometimes we think that we don't need help, but then when we look at this chart, we're like, oh, actually, it's actually more related to this emotion than that emotion. Like emotional vocabulary is a really important skill in order to be a highly functional human. Okay. Emotional vocabulary. Okay. So right now I feel frustrated because, right now I feel overwhelmed because, fill in the blank, use the emotional chart. Number two, once you go through that exhaustion, write down what I want to be different is blank. What I want to be different is blank. Okay. Another option you can use is how I'd like to feel is blank. How I like to feel is blank. What I want to be different is blank. How I like to feel is blank. So it might be like, okay, right now I feel frustrated because I had a lot going on at this conference. I don't know where to start. I feel like I got so many opportunities and I still need to tidy up some of my business systems before I do all these reach outs, blah, 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 blah. What I want to be different is I want to feel organized. I want to like have my ducks in a row. I want to make sure I have another team member that can help me with this. Da 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 da. Okay. And then number three is this. Here's what I'm going to do about it. Okay. So it's like right now I feel you're holding space for yourself, not bypassing. Do you see the processing? Do you see the presence with the emotions that I'm inviting you into? Okay. I feel this way because bam, hold space for yourself. Number two, what I want to be different is these things, or how I like to feel is this way, and start to go into ideas around that. Now it's starting to be a little bit more empowering. Now it's starting to be like working through the clarity. Now those cords that were tangled, now you're starting to untwist them because you know how you feel. And then now this is why I want to change. This is what I want to be different. And then it's like, now here's what I'm going to do. And then like, that's the untanglement. Like, here's what I'm going to do. It's untangled. It's not all emotionally convoluted. Here's what I'm going to do about it. And even if there's still like some wrestle, some unclarity, some grieving that's happening, at least you held space for yourself. And now you can be more emotionally clear to make the decisions that are before you. Okay. And so here's what I'm going to do about it. Okay. This is where we step into empowerment. Now, this is the part where I feel like a good part of the mental health industry goes wrong. We think that it's just about holding space or taking a break or breathing. But that is only going to bring you back to zero or neutral. And y'all know me, I'm not a person that's about neutral. We got to go. We got to put the foot on the gas. We got to go from stress to success. We got to go from struggling to victorious. We got to go from mentally overwhelmed to mentally clear and empowered. And so it's not enough, from my opinion, just to be like, yo, we just want to feel better, right? Feel better so that you can what? Contribute. Okay. We want to go from crisis to contribution. And so a lot of that, man, a lot of people, they're so touchy when they're dealing with somebody who's struggling with their mental health, and then just like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I could trigger them. I could do this. And it's just like, man, like, yes, walk with care, be cautious, but don't treat the person like they can't be touched, or don't, like, it almost makes it worse when you treat people who are dealing with mental health challenges like that. It almost makes it worse. So right now I feel frustrated because what I want to be different is blank. And then here's what I'm going to do about it. Okay. That's the process that I've stepped into after, again, dealing with the emotional overwhelm that comes from quantum leaps and expansion. And then also just normal mental health challenges and grief. Okay. So, y'all, I hope you found this helpful. If you just came in later in the stream, I talked about mental health. I talked about dealing with emotional overwhelm, specifically through the lens of high achieving leaders, right? Like, talked about, you just got to go watch the replay. I was about to recap the whole thing because y'all be coming in late sometimes. So go watch the replay. Let me know what's your process for dealing with emotional overwhelm. Okay. Let's normalize this conversation. I'm going to hold you all accountable to say, hey, if you really want to help the world with the mental health challenges that it's having, and it's bad, y'all. It's bad. Like I heard stories about teenagers doing Skittle parties where they put a bunch of prescription medication, over-the-counter medication and prescription medication into, and off-the-street drugs into a bowl, and they have it at a party, call it a Skittle party, and you like reach in the bowl and you grab whatever out, like Skittles. What? Teenagers doing this. I talked to a gentleman today. They were asking me to help them with some things, and in their county, there's been a suicide at every one of their schools. They have, I think, 20 schools in their county, and there's been a suicide at all 20 of their high schools in that county this year. Wow. And that doesn't even cover the amount of people who aren't going to the extremity to end their life, but are just like wrestling and living in this wrestle. So if you really want to make a difference, if you really want to change those statistics, if you really want to help the mental health of our youth, can I tell you what you can do? You can start with being honest about your own struggles. You can start with being vulnerable about your own life. One of the challenges that social media does is it creates this pressure to put to, you know, to put together this perfect curated life in front of the world. Like, hey, I'll show you my social media feed, but I won't show you my heart. And I'm not suggesting that the next time you argue or cry or feel insecure that you hit the record button and broadcast it to the world. That's not what I'm saying. But you could at least weave in a live stream, talk about how you struggle sometimes if you really want to make a difference. So do the things that you would tell somebody who's in crisis to do. Because when we're all processing our emotions and not suppressing it, that's when we actually normalize mental health. That's when we actually create a society where it's safe and okay to not be okay. It starts with our own individual practice. Somebody should write that in the chat. It starts with our own individual practice. I'll never forget. I'll end with this story. I went to a county. It was like a countywide mental health addiction recovery event. Like it was like, I don't know, 20 different vendors. I don't know, a couple hundred people. They invited me in to be the keynote speaker. I was talking to one of the directors of it was either one of the nonprofits or the conference itself. I forgot who was, like, if the person was on the team or not, or if they were just a vendor. And they were just preaching about all this, like, oh man, our youth these days, man, they're doing all these drugs and they're struggling mentally and they're emotionally overwhelmed. And man, we got to let them know, man, it's okay not to be okay, man. We got to create safe spaces for our children. Man, we got to let them know that they got to open up and talk to their friends and go see a counselor and And I said, yeah, man, I know, I agree. Hey, can I ask you a question? Do you see a counselor? No. Do you journal? Nope. What we do speaks louder than what we say. I think the reason why we have a mental health challenge is because we have a vulnerability problem. People are unwilling to be vulnerable and say, you know what? I got some areas that I have unresolved emotions about, and I'm going to seek help and support around it so that I normalize it for everyone around me who's feeling the same. So that's my little lesson today on mental health and dealing with emotional overwhelm. I hope you find it valuable. This is going to, since I did stream on my StreamYard this time, you are going to see this on my YouTube channels. But I'll tell you, if you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch, X, if you're watching on any of those platforms, I stream daily on my Instagram channel. I just found that it's a better platform for like daily streaming because it pushes it to the audience better, sooner. I don't know about the replays though. Facebook might be better for replays. I get way more views on the replays on my Facebook than I do on my Instagram. So got to figure that out. But tap in, y'all. Tap in on Instagram. And it's a better view. So doing daily development with Daryl there. I don't always talk about mental health. I'll probably be talking about it a lot this month. Number one, it's Suicide Prevention Month. And then number two, I'm publishing my mental health book this month. So it's like top of mind, top of heart for me. I'm in a heightened practice around it. But oftentimes I plan to talk about storytelling and personal development and what books I'm reading and mindset tips and events you need to be at and networking, follow-up tips and all that stuff so that, ultimately you can move your life forward. I believe that when we're all operating in our purpose, that is when the world has no problems. And again, not to say that everything will be peachy and keen and perfect and oasis, but to say like, hey, you were created to be an answer to a problem. You were designed specifically with your temperament, with your look, with your gifts, with your talents, with your makeup, with your heart, with your passion, for a specific purpose in this world. Don't ever let a season of bad luck or hardship or inconvenience or betrayal make you question the reason for your existence. You belong, you matter, your life is here to make a difference. And so I believe that for you. And this is what I had to tell myself to go from suicide to success. So daily live streams, topics will vary. I usually stay in the realm of mental health and then building and growing your business with storytelling. But I'm a student of personal development, and I believe that as we develop ourselves, so the world around us gets better. Okay, we are the center of our own creation, and so as we invest in ourselves and grow ourselves, therefore everything around us grows, our business, our relationships, and everything that we touch. So it all starts with you. Okay. Love you. Let me know your takeaways from this. Let me know what you want me to talk about on these daily live streams. If you haven't got signed up for my broadcast channel, make sure you do that. Also, if you're looking for a way to grow in your ability to convey and tell passionate, vulnerable stories that'll get you booked on stages, that'll make you more income and impact in this world, my wife and I are hosting a free transformational event this Saturday in Franklin, Tennessee at the Chamber of Commerce. So comment event wherever you're watching this. If you want to find out details about that, would love to support you. This is a transformational event, meaning that we're going to take you through a series of exercises designed to help you leave a different version than what you came. We might break a board. We might walk on fire. We're not going to do walk on fire at this event. We might break a board. We might cause you to do some extreme stuff. We might push you outside of your comfort zone. But the result will be that your expression, your conviction, and your message, your clarity, and how you're going to move forward in the marketplace to advance your movement with your message will become clear. So drop event in the chat if you want deets about that. We do host them regularly. So if you want to get on the notified about future events, make sure you comment event. And I'll see y'all tomorrow on tomorrow's stream. Peace.